if you need some extra support on writing your comparative essay between Steve Jobs and Bud Caldwel, this is the video for you. However, before you start this video, you need to make sure that you have read chapter 1 through 5, you've completed all of the charts in your journal, and you have watched the speech by Steve Jobs a few times. Maybe you've even made some notes on the hard copy of the speech. If you didn't do those things yet, go do them and then come back. But the sheets I'm talking about is this one, and this one, and this one. In the very least, those three must be filled out. Now, on chapter 6 through 10, there is some information about Steve Jobs. What I want you to do is start reading chapter 6 and 7 and thinking about how it's like Steve Jobs. You don't have to have chapter 6 through 10 finished yet to start this, but eventually we will. After you do those things, I need you to just start thinking. And that's where a lot of students are running into trouble. Some students have told me they can't think of anything they have the same. And this is what this video is going to help you do. We are going to list Steve Jobs' traits, and we're going to list Bud Caldwel's traits in two separate columns. And then the column in the middle will be what they have the same. So really what you need to get out is a blank sheet of paper, a pencil, and a piece of paper that you folded into 3 different parts so that it looks just like this. One column is going to say Steve Jobs, and the other column is going to say Bud Caldwel. So make your paper look just like this. The middle column is going to be what they both have in common. When I look at Steve Jobs and I watch the video and I just look right at his face, I can just tell right away something. He's old and his skin is light. I just look at him and I can tell those two things. And when I look at the cover of Bud Not Buddy, I can see that the main character is young and he has dark skin. Like, I don't even have to read the book. I don't even have to listen to the speech, and boom, I got 2 things. But that doesn't leave me with very much in common right now. But Steve Jobs is a grown man and Bud Caldwel is a boy. So I can just start off with the basics. Both of these are males. So now I have to go a little deeper. When I think of Bud, the first thing I think of is that his mother died and he does not know where his father is. Go ahead and write that down under Bud Caldwel. So I'm thinking about his family situation. So now I'm going to go over to Steve Jobs and I'm going to think about his family situation. Steve Jobs' mother gave him up. And then knowing what I know about parental rights, the father agreed and he signed the papers that he would allow his son to be adopted and he would give up all parental rights. So now, what does that say about Bud and Steve together? What do they both have the same about their families? Both of them were with foster families or adoptive families. Both of them were raised by families who were not their biological parents. So that's one commonality. You can in fact write a paragraph on that. You could write a paragraph on how they felt. Because I read Steve Jobs' biography and I know that in certain parts of his life, he felt rejected by his biological parents. And he wondered a lot why they gave him up. And so sometimes that hurt his self-esteem. Sometimes it made him feel bad. Sometimes it made him feel curious. And sometimes it made him feel kind of angry. But at other parts in Steve Jobs' life, according to his biography, he felt loved unconditionally by the parents who chose to take him. And he felt very appreciative of the things they did for him. And he knew that he was a good person based on how they treated him. Now, Bud Caldwel, well, that remains to be seen. I don't think Bud felt rejected by his mother because she died, but I wonder if Bud felt rejected by his father. I think maybe later on we might find out if his father in fact did reject him, or his father left for a different reason, or maybe his father left to provide for him. So we don't really know if Bud is going to be loved unconditionally by the end of the story, or whether he's going to meet his father and then feel kind of rejected. I'm not really sure. We're going to have to explore that and read some more. Let's move on. On Bud Caldwel, when we think about Bud Caldwel, where we left in the story last was that Bud left the shed. And something very important in Steve Jobs' speeches, Steve talked about dropping out of college. What do those two things have in common? Bud left the shed because he wanted something. And Steve dropped out of college because he wanted the same thing. Both Steve Jobs and Bud Caldwel wanted a better life. And both of them ran away from the life they were in to have a new life. So that is another thing you could have a whole nother paragraph about if you wanted to. You can talk about how Bud felt in the shed. You can talk about how Steve felt in college. You can talk about how Bud felt running out of the shed and how Steve felt running out of the college. I mean, it's a very different situation, but you still have a lot of the same emotions when you leave a place. When we think about Steve, Steve says in his speech that he trusted in karma, and then I inferred that he also trusted in his own intelligence. And Steve says in the speech that you have to trust in something, which leads me to wonder, what did Bud trust in? Write this down. Bud trusted in hope. He trusted in a family. And for a little while, he trusted that his father would find him and welcome him and be happy to see him. Now, whether those things that they trusted in turned out to be true or not, the thing they have in common right now is that they trusted in something. They trusted that things would work out. Both of them believed that the future was better than the present. And that is a very powerful thing, to believe that the future is better than whatever's happening right now. I don't know about you, but I think that sounds like it should be a rule for life. The best is yet to come. Okay, so now your paper looks like my paper with 3 different columns. But we're not done yet. We need to make a few paragraphs here, so we need some more ideas. So this side is still Steve Jobs, and this side is still Bud Caldwel, but I've just abbreviated it. And in part 2 here, well, you could call this paragraph 2 if you wanted, or you could just call it an extension of the previous paragraph. I'm going to now start with things they had in common and see if you can think of the specifics of each of them. Like this. Both Steve and Bud started their lives again. So how did Bud start his life again? Well, first of all, he had one happy little life with his mom, and then his mom died. So he got a new life with a foster family. But when the book starts in chapter 1, chapter 2, he's packing up again, which means he's had to start his life again with each foster family. So he started again when he moved in with the Amoses, and then he started again when he moved out of the Amoses' house. If you're at that part of the book again, you realize that his life has started again when he got in Lefty's car. Something happened that would turn the course of his life. You might even call getting in Lefty's car an epiphany. So these are 4 times when Bud has started his life again. But, oh wait, you haven't read that one yet. But there is a time when Steve started his life again. The very first time is when Steve was a baby and he was born to a woman in college who didn't necessarily want a baby. So he had to start again when he was just a few days old with a new mom. Steve Jobs' life started again when his mother surrendered him. And then Steve Jobs' life was going along a course. He was living with his adoptive parents. He was hanging out at the neighbor's house, learning about electronics. He was just being a little kid, going about his life. And then when he enrolled in college, his life changed in a new direction. He started his life again when he quit college. When he quit college, then he started on a different path. He started making different decisions that would lead to something else. And he started a few companies. And everything was going fine. They fired him from Apple. So now he starts again, but then they rehired him at Apple. Now I can compare these 2 characters and give specific examples of where each of them started their life again. But together, I could write a paragraph about how each male started their life again. Let's do that again with another commonality. Both of these men have rules for life, things to live by. Bud Caldwel has rule number 328. And to paraphrase, make up your mind fast. The longer you think about it, the more easy you're going to change, right? Rule 328. He has rule number 29. When you wake up alone, well, you're going to have to look up that one yourself. Something about Todd putting that pencil in his nose taught him a rule about when you wake up alone and you don't know where you are. And, well, Bud has rules for everything. Like when somebody says gone, it means they're dead. But those aren't the same rules Steve has. In Steve's life, when his biological mother was gone, that doesn't mean she was dead. But for Bud, gone means dead. So sometimes the rules are different. Steve's rules for life was don't settle. Don't waste your life living someone else's life. Change the direction of your life. Start your life again to make it yours. Have courage and stay foolish. So now your paper has lots of things in each column. And the middle column, each one of those could be a paragraph. You have lots of ideas now on how Steve Jobs and Bud Caldwel are the same and how they're different. So now you need to actually start writing. Your first paragraph introduces the topic, Bud and Steve. You need to tell me who each of these people are and where you heard about them from and how they're connected. In the second paragraph, you're going to have to tell me how they're both the same. We had just made a list of things. It is now your job to make that list into different sentences. You could start the sentences like this. Both Bud and Steve have, or both Bud and Steve want, or both Bud and Steve need, or both Bud and Steve are looking for. Any sentence like that is a good way to start. Now your third paragraph, well, it's going to connect your life to Bud and Steve. And this is where I'm sorry, but I can't help you. You have to find your connections. I can tell you mine, but you're not writing a paragraph about me. I need to know how you can connect these two people to your life. And that kind of is a very hard thing to do. I'm asking you to translate unfamiliar information into your life. If you have any unanswered questions or you notice any other parallels, be sure to throw those in your writing. I hope this video has helped you and supported you to try to write and get started on this very difficult writing. But I know it's difficult, so here's what I need you to do. I need you to do your best. Your best does not have to be perfect. Let the teacher decide how best to teach you next. That means you're going to turn in whatever you got, and then I'm going to do my job. I'm going to read it over. I'm going to read over everybody's in the class, and then I'm going to find what everyone has in common. Maybe everyone had a hard time finding what was the same between the characters. Maybe everyone had a hard time converting adjectives into sentences, right? I don't know. I need to read your work first. So, like Steve and Bud trusted that the future would be better, you have to trust in your teacher now that I can make it better. That being said, get started on your writing.